Hello, my name is Brehon Mills, and I would like to welcome you back to the channel, where not only do we talk about great stocks, but we also talk about great books. Listen, my team Humble family, I'm quite sure you guys have seen the news about the stock split. You've seen the news about the ticker symbol changing, and our ticker symbol for the present time will be TSNPD. I got up in the morning and I was looking at my TD Ameritrade account, and it was all numbers, and I'm wondering why I can't trade, I couldn't sell. But it takes a few days for them to update the ticker symbol change. But I noticed that and I came across this other stock, that was doing quite well, because I think people may have confused Humble Energy, HUML, with HMBL. And so they had a nice spike up today. They were up almost 32% based on this the humble signal. If you go to the conversations, you will see that, told you, mistaken, ticker got paid. This is not the ticker for TSNP Humble. The ticker is TSNPD now, and will change officially on March 26th to Humble. Please repost. Listen, Humble is now TSNPD for 20 days, and then we'll change to Humble. This isn't the right ticker for Humble blockchain app. TSNP is the correct one. And so this company here had a nice bump up to their stock, to their market cap, because people just assumed that this was Humble's new page, and quite naturally one would, because I went to it and I didn't know what was going on, and until I saw Humble Energy, and it just didn't make sense to me. So I went into the comments, and then I came across that information. All right, but for the next 20 days, we will be TSNPD. All right, this is just the a notification symbol to let us know that the stock ticker will be changing. All right, and the stock opened at 340 today, and we had a bump up to almost 480, a 42% increase. And why is that? Well, and it was smart on Humble Team, because Humble Team didn't want to announce the split. Now, by not announcing the split, the short sellers and a lot of retail investors didn't have an opportunity to sell their shares. Because if I knew that it was going to be a 4-to-1 split, I probably would have sold my shares and waited to see how the stock was going to pan out. Then look for an opportunity to buy back in. Now, with these short sellers, the short sellers had to get out. Okay, short sellers had to get out of their position. And remember, when you are shorting the stock, you are borrowing the shares from a broker, all right, selling them to the market with the obligation to buy those shares back. So once the stock split was announced, they had to quickly buy back those shares to close out their positions. And again, it's supply and demand. So as all of these shorters are buying stocks, and some retailers are buying stocks, it's increasing the value of the share price. Now, for us investors going forward, for us who like to buy stocks weekly, or like to purchase some shares whenever we get a little bit of extra money, we need to make a decision. When is the best time for us to jump back in? So what I think, or what I suggest for you small investors like myself, is to wait for a pullback. All right. Now the shorts had to cover, so that made the price spike up a little bit. But eventually those shorts are going to sell their positions, because they're not in it for the long term. All right. So they're going to throw their shares out into the market again, which is going to lower the share price. So I can actually see TSNPD coming back down to 420 or even $4 sometime next week. All right. Again, none of this is guaranteed. Okay. None of this is guaranteed. I may be wrong. I'm not a financial advisor, but I can see once the short sellers begin dumping their shares, because that's what they will do. They had to cover their positions today to get out of it. But once they begin dumping their shares, I can see a reduction in the share price. All right. And that may continue for a while. So we might see a slight reduction in price. I know when I was in Aurora Cannabis, I was high on them back in 2015 when they were, a dollar. They went to $2. Man, I was rolling in Aurora Cannabis, and I didn't think they could falter. And man, I was in that stock. I had an electrician, one of my coworkers, who actually he worked for me in my department. He was an electrician, and he had a lot more time than I did. He was much older than I, so I was throwing 10,000 in the market, and he was throwing 300,000 in the market. So he was able to, where I was able to turn 10,000 into 40 or 50,000. He turned 300,000 into like a million too, all on the cannabis sector. And we thought that this was going to be a continuous run, a long run. And what happened? Man, that stock, my 50,000 went from 50 to 40, from 40 to 30, from 30 to 20, because once it dipped, I said, well, I'm going to buy more of the dip. And then it dipped again, and it dipped again, and it dipped again. And so now I don't know how much TSNPD may dip, but I do think, and I do expect that there may be a little bit of a pullback sometime next week. Now, with them moving up to $4.80, now this may bring in some new hedge funds or some new investors that may look at this as a great long-term opportunity, and they may begin to position themselves for the long haul, right? So they may add 1 million shares here or 1 million shares there. But if that's not the case, I can see the short sellers selling and the price actually dropping a little bit. Okay, so let's sit back, let's watch the share price, and let's wait until we jump in and begin to add more shares. Okay. Again, I'm Team Humble all the way. I'm always looking for opportunities where I can add more shares. Unfortunately, now going from $1 a share price to $3, that's gonna definitely have an impact on how many shares I can buy. Plus, being OTC with TD Ameritrade, now I have to, I'm paying $6.95 per trade. So again, that has an impact on how many shares I buy also, because again, if I'm buying 100 shares a week, every month I'm paying TD Ameritrade almost $28. So we got to take a look at that and make sure we are strategizing when it comes to purchasing more shares. All right. And I like the point that that was mentioned in the call about, they could have went to a, when it comes to their stock split, they did a 4-to-1 stock split. They could have did a 100-to-1 stock split. They could have did a 10,000-to-1 stock split. That would have just basically crushed us. That would have made my shares, a 10,000 to 1. Now I'm looking at maybe 4 or 5 shares, and that would have sucked. I definitely would have sold, and I would have probably, jumped off of Team Humble's boat. But they did 4-to-1, so I'm pretty good with that. And also, they talked about doing the split brings less volatility. Now, if you've been watching my channel, now I've mentioned this several times before. When investors start coming in and buying shares, it increases the value of the stock, and that brings in the day traders. So the day traders come in, they buy large volumes of the stock, and then once they make 5-10%, whatever, they dump the stock. They buy the stock, they dump the stock. So if you've been following my channel, I did mention that I did mention that quite a few times, and also now we have gone from over 4 billion shares outstanding to just 1 billion shares outstanding. All right, now to be honest with you, that's okay. 500 million shares would have been a whole lot better because, the lesser the amount of shares, the faster the share price goes up. But 1 billion shares outstanding, isn't that bad, especially when you're talking about a company that is going to affect the world globally. I mean, you just can't beat that. And they also talked about having dead shares. They had a 500,000 shares, a 500,000,000 shares dead, meaning there were no one selling, no one trading, just a 500,000,000 shares out there with no obligation. All right, and so they got rid of that. Also they talked about no share dilution. Now you just did a reverse stock split. Why would we throw out more shares to the market to dilute the shares? Now, he talked about there won't be any share dilution, and I don't see how or could or would there ever be any share dilution in the near future. All right, we have 1 billion shares outstanding. We don't need any more shares flooding the market. Okay. And I mean, that's about it. But those are some of the key things that my key takeaways. Again, if you've been following this channel, there are a lot of other great channels out there where people are talking about Humble Pay, TSNP. Now it's TSNPD. And again, I'm Team Humble all the way. I'm in it for the long haul. I'm always looking for opportunities to add more shares when I can. And hopefully, TSNPD, once we do change the ticker symbol to humble, we can start getting ourselves ready to be placed on the NASDAQ or the New York Stock Exchange. All right. But that's all I have for today. Team Humble. Again, I don't like seeing my share numbers dwindle, but when it's all said and done, it's all about percentage, right? It's all about percentage. So whatever I have in humble stock, if it 10x, it 10x. It doesn't matter how many shares you have. If it 100x, it 100x. It doesn't matter how many shares you have. Okay, so if you have $20,000 in there now and it 10x, that's $200,000. Okay, so that's the only way we could look at it. We can't look at it in share count. We only could look at it in percentages. All right, and how many times it X from here. We still are at the beginning of the year, so I can easily see $10 by the end of the year. We definitely can double in value. All right, we can double in value and shareholder value. All we need is a few good quarters. This is a company. This is a company that going to change the world globally from a merchant standpoint, from a commerce standpoint, from a financial standpoint. Again, this is mainly a financial disruptor, and that's my whole thing. I like the selling of the clothes and all that stuff, but when it's all said and done, how are you financially disrupting the world and having merchants from Africa and Brazil and Colombia and Ukraine all being able to use the merchant app to interact with one another without having to exchange paper currency? That's the goal. All right, that's the gift. And that's what we're aiming for. All right, we're aiming for that one world currency. All right. Humble is on the cusp of creating the one world currency. All right. Now that's all I have for today. Hope I didn't ramble on too much, but if I added any value to you, please leave a like, hit the subscribe button, and keep coming back for more wealth building information. Peace.